Oh, sorry, I'm just, recording in progress.
Yeah, well, there we go.
But this I got from, I quickly scurried around to try and find this funny silky t-shirt. I'll give you the full 360.
Nice.
It's really comfy, really soft, as most secondhand gear is. I always feel like, I let someone do the hard yards of breaking a garment in. I'm just lazy. I want them to break it in for me. And then I get the second life cycle. But this one was from a little flea market in Paris. So
Wow.
I can't tell you which one.
Yeah.
I don't know which one. Basically, what my friend and I did as soon as we got off the plane, pre-pandemic, we did fit in a little trip to Europe and raced straight to the flea market. So it was exactly what I wanted to do. And yeah, I found this straight away, grabbed it. Oh, got some funny sounds. Is anyone else getting that funny sound?
No, but I can hear you. You're doing okay. Keep talking. Flea markets in Paris.
Sorry, and then there's little necklaces just from the local op shop, and I don't know if you can say it says cheap. And all my
sometimes
jewelry,
cheap can be good, not always bad.
Doesn't and secondhand doesn't always have to be cheap, but I just think it's a bit trashy, and it goes with the look and the Peg Bundy hair that I'm rocking. Packet dye, jewelry from the op shop. That's my steez.
All coming together. Great. And Nina, that pink is so beautiful on you, but tell us a little bit about what you're wearing.
Great. So this is actually a vintage 1950, I believe it's 50 dress. So I got this probably like 2013, and I was having a birthday dinner, and I wanted to have Audrey Hepburn vibes because Audrey Hepburn is very much a pink kind of girl. So yeah, that's what I'm wearing. And then I just put a little bee brooch on it that I found at a flea market a couple years ago, just to add a little bit of glamour, I suppose.
Fantastic. Nothing like glamour on a Saturday afternoon.
I know.
And then we've got Kit Willow, and Kit was having a very luxurious sneaky Aperol spritz at a cafe, and now she's run to her car because she's worried that we won't be able to hear her. I hope she doesn't expire. But there she is. Kit Willow, tell us a bit about what you're wearing today. You must be wearing your stylings. Oh, we can't. Can we hear you? I can't hear you. We'll keep trying. Can you hear us, Kit? We can't hear you. Yep. All right, we might have to go back to Kit in a minute and find out what she's wearing. But in the meantime, I really want to go straight to Ella with my first question. Oh, actually, before I go to Ella's question, I want to ask Ella and Nina, we'll hopefully get Kit in a minute. When you think about what the benefits of sustainable fashion are, and obviously how we define sustainable fashion is important. It can be a whole range of things, and we certainly don't want to get into greenwashing. But when you think about the benefits of sustainable fashion, can you point out something that you think, a personal benefit, but also what it might be a benefit to the broader community of buying sustainably? I'm going to start with you, Nina.
Oh my gosh. Geez, this is such a lifelong passion. I mean, do we have more than an hour?
I know that I'm going to ask you, it's difficult, but I'm going to ask you to pinpoint one personal benefit and one community benefit.
So given the laundry list of benefits, and it's just basically the epitome of everything that's excellent and great about fashion. I mean, you get exposed to like this plethora of styles and patterns and colors from literally every fashion era when you go to an op shop or a flea market, right, from secondhand. And I think that's such a beautiful way to cultivate your personal style and really express who you are as opposed to like following fashion trends. So I think it's made me who I am, because when you're a young person shopping for a personality, you try this on and it not really you and things like that. So it's kind of built up my self-confidence and allowed me to really express my individuality. So I think that's a benefit for me personally as well as to everyone. And you get to just look incredibly stylish.
Yeah.
That's it.
We're going to talk a little bit about one of the things you're really passionate and outspoken about, which is around the impact of fast fashion and secondhand fashion on the global south. But I want to go to Ella. What do you think is one of the kind of biggest personal benefits for buying sustainable fashion?
Well, I got to say that really resonates with me. Your sort of self-confidence, your personal style, and sort of knowing that you're crafting that. Or, I guess it's the work of option and putting together when they're less. You're much more involved in crafting, buying the look off the mannequin from the shop that everyone has. I think it's something a lot. It's a mixture. I didn't have what everyone, but also as a young musician, trying to craft a person. I sort of think that's an incredibly important part of the job. And so I was really sort of bent on having a look at people didn't, evidenced by those early books. They were pretty out there, and a lot of those were a mixture of handmade, shopped, and the occasional high-end thing that, further down the track. Anyway, so I just enjoy the of it, the alchemy of it, and the interaction, the socialization. I'll end up having conversations in shops because I don't know, it's like a community. Shorthand, and the op shop garage sale is a great example. Basically, in their home, there's so much more interaction in it. It's also feel that shop to clients.
Ella, I'm going to have to stop you there. I apologise. I'm going to get you to go out and come back in because your sound is terrible.
The sound.
Sorry. I think you're going to have to maybe talk to Andrew and Barb about how to go, because I sensed that everything you were saying was wonderful and making sense, but you kept cutting back.
I'll go out. No, it's bad for me too. I'm hearing it sound bad too. Is that any better?
It is better. Whatever you've just done is great. Nina, Can I get your sound?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. Can everybody in the chat, thank you so much for we really want the sound to be as good as it possibly can. Yeah. And I think Kit is driving home to be able to be involved in the seminar, so we're just going to let her drive home. And,
do you want me to repeat anything? Sorry, I
got a bit of a sense of a very similar kind of response to Nina about the ability to be creative, to not just kind of let what's in the shops guide your fashion taste and all the rest of it. See, I'm not a lip reader, but I do.
You got it.
I got the vibe. But I suppose one of the things that you both talked about, your own kind of the personal benefit you get from buying sustainably. But let's talk a bit about how you feel it's making a difference more broadly to your community. I am when I try and buy secondhand, I sometimes find it hard to find secondhand clothes that exactly fit my size, but it is possible. I think it's a bit of a misnomer that you have to kind of have an Audrey Hepburn shape to fit into secondhand clothes. And then I'm also sorry, what did you say, Nina?
I certainly do not have an Audrey Hepburn shape, but
Me neither.
It's okay. So, Catherine Deneuve used to say that at 40 you make a decision. I'm 50 next year. At 40 you make a decision between your ass and your face. And I made a decision to worry about my face and not my ass. And given I do a lot of television and nobody gets to see my ass, it's generally a good thing. I just realised that there are people under the age of 18 on this seminar, so I apologise. That's my sound. Hopefully my sound just went out that moment. All right, I want to talk about what you think might be the great community benefits. Like, what are the benefits more broadly? Either, obviously, sustainability, there's a big issue around environment, but also when we think about the kinds of people who make our clothes, sell our clothes, make the fabrics for our clothes, all the rest of it, sell those clothes to us. So I might go to Nina, because this is something you're particularly knowledgeable and articulate about.
Sorry, what was the question in terms of what's the benefit to community?
Yeah, the benefit more broadly to community of buying.
Sure.
Sustainable.
Yeah, oh my gosh, there's so much, because so I've been op shopping literally most of my life, and there's this thing about warmth when you go into an op shop, traditional op shops mostly, where it's, I don't know if this, it's this thing where kind of people get to know each other. It's warm, people say hello. And I notice a lot of the times when people try things on, everyone's like, oh, that looks amazing on you, you should wear it. But I don't get that same vibe when I go into conventional retail. It's just a bit more cold. Sure, everything's in size and color order, and less chaotic than an op shop in some cases. However, there's just that warmth, there's just that vibe of camaraderie, that vibe of, you know, we're a community. This is fun. And, you know, the people doing it, you can tell that they really, really love it. Now, I'll tell you another story. Like, when I've been hosting clothes swaps for over a decade, and it was initially a way to kind of initiate people into the art of secondhand, right? So people, I'd make it into a party, there'd be wine and music and stuff, and people would really get into it. And what would happen is that everyone would start styling each other. So, you know, they go into the changing rooms, they come out, they look in the mirror, and everyone was like, someone would grab a scarf and put it on that person, like, oh, you should wear it with this scarf, or you should wear it with these shoes. Well, I took this belt, but actually I think it's going to look better on you. And that, you don't get that in conventional retail, you know, and it's only from my experience in secondhand shopping environments where you sort of get that vibe of community, that vibe of one, you know, we're in this together, we're doing this together, this is exciting, this is fun, you know. I think that's a massive benefit to the community, as well as, you know, the financial aspect, right? So obviously secondhand is cheaper, more affordable than buying conventional retail. So for people who can't afford it, I think it's a huge benefit. For people who want to wear high-end clothing as well, it's a way to not only keep stuff out of landfill, but to get like really good quality garments more affordably, you know. And for people, you know, with children who grow out of clothes very quickly, it's a way to be able to cut costs on garments where you don't have to buy constantly, like every 6 months, whatever, as children
Absolutely.
grow.
Yeah. Oh, well, I hope I haven't frozen. I find so I have 3 children, 3 girls, and one of the things I find fantastic is that most of their wardrobe is either passed down from friends of mine who had children who are older, and then I have all my friends that I pass them down, and then you see on Instagram them kind of, you know, cycling through all the time, and you know, that's wonderful to see those that clothing that your little girls used to wear and now other little girls are wearing. So hopefully you're able to do that, especially if you buy some quality stuff.
Oh, for sure. When I was, I'll just say very quickly, when I was growing up, you know, talking about hand-me-downs, most of my clothes were hand-me-downs as a little girl. Now, interesting story, I was an absolute tomboy, so different from my style now, but I had 4 older brothers, so all my clothes were like boys t-shirts, superhero t-shirts, you know, Nike, Adidas stuff, baggy pants, and all of that stuff. That was my vibe until I was about, I don't know, 13, 14. But what was exciting as well is I loved it. You know, just getting something from someone that's a friend or family member, there's just this love, that this special kind of love that's infused in the garment that you, when you receive it, you're like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. It's a really special gift, I think, to sort of hand down to someone.
Yeah, and so when Nina was talking about that kind of collaborative and kind of community vibe with secondhand and vintage shopping, you were nodding. So that's been your experience as well?
Big time. And I think, you know, I think it's like a nice place to have this level playing field where there might be people who simply are on a budget, like that you mentioned kids, you know, like we were completely dressed from op shops and hand-me-downs as kids. You know, both my parents were teachers, you know, pretty like lower middle class or whatever. We didn't have a lot of money. And so part of it was practical. And then even as you do become perhaps more successful and you have more access to money and access to high fashion, I still think there's something nice about being in the same shop as people who are low income, people who might be, also don't forget that like a lot of op shops are associated with charities and outreach and stuff like that. So you've got people floating around who are, you know, on the fringes or having a tough time.
Yeah.
Underdogs out, you know, miss certain societies, people that aren't, you know, just going down the middle of the road and having it totally easy, however you want to put it. And I think it's a great place to meet on that level playing field around something so fun and so chatty like fashion, because you do totally get like
helping and input, and that's something that's important to me, and I think it keeps, it's an active way of checking your privilege like that too, and you can sort of embody that in those conversations and in those times, and it's multi-generational. Like it has so many things that traditional retail does not have, because you do one shop for one style that appeals to one kind of woman or person, but in the shop it's 80-year-olds, it's 8-year-olds, it's people of all different backgrounds and of different incomes, and that's really important. I just think that that's why it's community, not clique. And something else, I forgot what I was going to say, but it's a conversation starter and a leveler, I think.
Yeah. And Ella, as you were talking, and you probably weren't born when this happened, but there are a few people I can see that grew up in the 80s. For me, the movie Pretty in Pink was so, like, I remember lots of things about that movie, but I actually remember her love of clothes and her creativity and buying secondhand, and how she got her prom dress from 2 different dresses together. And it's the reason why I went to a secondhand store to get my formal dress, and I beaded it myself, and I got this canary yellow opera coat that cost $5 that I fixed up, and it just inspired a love of style, even though you're an outsider, even though you can't afford it, and rather than wearing the perfect expensive dress. So
don't you find you're always the one who gets the compliments, in this $5 I literally grabbed an opera coat. Opera coats are a great hack, everybody, too. Like, if you don't know what to wear, you just chuck on an opera coat, and they're $5 to $7, the different satins in the world. I grabbed one of those before a gig the other day, and I was like, oh, this isn't very appropriate. It's going to be a bit weird at this gig that I'm playing. And everyone just lost their minds for it. I was like, oh, good old opera coat. Don't look underneath. There was just nothing exciting.
No, I was about to say, occasionally there are pajama pants on. So I walk the dog in an opera coat. Nobody says anything. Now, if we got Kit, I think Kit didn't rushed in her car. Can we see her at all? And can she answer us?
Hello.
Hello, Kit. How are you?
Oh, good. You can see me and hear me.
We can see you. Okay, we're going to jump into the conversation. Tell us what you're wearing. It must be one of your creations.
Yes, I am wearing one of our jumpsuits from our collection, made out of lensing certified viscose.
Tell us about certified viscose. I've never heard of that.
Yeah, so basically viscose comes from wood pulp.
Yeah.
So it comes from trees, and one of the issues, firstly, is they can be like deforested from virgin forests.
Yeah.
So it has to be responsible foresting, which means that it is farmed monocropping, that is a certain area of land dedicated to growing that tree. The second thing is, when you turn it from a wood pulp fibre into a thread, a lot of acids are used, and that is released into waterways, contaminating drinking water and communities' health, therefore. So when it's lensing certified, it means that a closed loop system has been used to turn it from a wood pulp fibre into a thread, so that any of the toxic effluent is upcycled back into the system, so that no toxic effluent is released.
Yeah. Kit, I suppose one of the things that, and it's the case with almost everything we buy, but fashion is a really good example. There are so many hidden costs to the world and the community. We might go into a shop and we buy a $10 shirt or t-shirt, but there are all these hidden costs to the communities that make the resources that make the fabric and all the rest of it. What do you say to people who say, oh, I can't afford sustainable fashion, it's much more expensive than going to mainstream fashion and buying the same kind of thing?
Well, I actually say buy less and buy better.
Yeah.
Because I think that is critical. And if you buy something that you really love and invest in it, but wear it more, cost per wear is down. The other thing is, when it is cheaper and contaminating the earth or exploiting human rights through payment of slave labour, etc., somebody is paying. So it's either the planet paying if virgin nylon and polyester is purchased, and it's a lot cheaper. It's crazy because it's so costly to the planet but cheap to buy. So the planet pays in that respect because it releases nitrous oxide, which is 300 times more toxic than carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. Or so that's the future generations paying. The other thing is if it is, for instance, made in Bangladesh or countries where their minimum award wage is below living wages, then they're paying the price. And the customer isn't paying the price in the first instance, but eventually, we all end up paying.
We all end up paying, absolutely. I'm going to come to Nina in a minute to talk a little bit about, you should go to her Eco Styles website because it's absolutely fantastic. But there's quite a lot of her writing about, the dark side of secondhand fashion in terms of the impact on the global south. But I want to come to you, Kit, because we haven't had much time with you. And I did want to ask you, about the principles and the drivers of KitX, and go and look at some of her absolutely beautiful clothes, including her t-shirts online. But tell me a bit about what the principles and the drivers are. It's really not as simple as saying you're using organic fabric, is it? There's a lot behind it. Tell us a bit more about KitX.
So KitX was born on the premise of sourcing consciously to minimize the impact on the planet's resources, creating a fully sustainable brand that is. And what is sustainable now? We're moving into regenerative because sustaining what we have is no longer really an option. But creating a fully sustainable brand that without compromising the desirability and the sensuality of the product. So that was kind of where it was born. And Kit is my name, but also, standing for kindness, integrity, transparency. And then X is, it's the female chromosome. It was 10 years from when I started Willow to when that finished, my first fashion label. And it also rounded up the letters into this really good symbol. Yeah. So that's kind of where we started. Is it hard? I think that because we started the label from the beginning with this very clear vision, and we've integrated it into every single pore of the business, it hasn't been hard, because I probably wouldn't be doing what I'm doing if it wasn't with purpose of, yes, I love the design process. That it's a selfish passion, but I wouldn't be doing it unless it had, without the pursuit of having an impact and having an impact on just a very strong undercurrent of doing the right thing and sourcing consciously, but also sharing the story with the industry, sharing the story with the customers, so that there is an awareness out there that starts to shift how we operate forward. And so that was kind of where I started, and therefore it's such a driving passion, and everyone who's in the business is really passionate about it. It's kind of easy because we love it.
Yeah, and it must be, and because of that, because it's everywhere all throughout the brand and the business, you must get your customers and consumers responding really enthusiastically and not necessarily asking those, why is it so expensive, all those other kinds of things. So attracting consumers that share your values.
Yes.
So go on.
Yeah. So I was just going to say, my thing as well is not to shove it, in a consumer's face. It's sustainable, buy it. It's really good. It's like, if you love it, buy it. And that's my big thing. Fits beautifully, functions beautifully. Yeah. And then the consciously sourced to minimize the impact on the planet. And then there are stories behind it that it gets deeper level for them to share stories. But if they don't, it's sort of.
Yeah. I'm going to come back to you, Kit, about in a bit about what it's going to take to make the entire fashion industry, some of the principles that you've put in your business as kind of just business as usual. What will it take and where will that go? But I want to go to Nina to talk a bit about the work she's been doing and the writing about, you know, the dark side of the secondhand fashion industry, dark side of secondhand fashion and the global south. It's only quite recently that I realised that so much of our secondhand clothes get dumped in these countries, in places, particularly in Africa, but not exclusively there. For people unaware of this aspect of the rad trade, what should they know? What would you like them to know?
A lot.
Go look at Nina's website. There's quite a few articles, but have a look. Give us your short.
I'll keep it super brief because you know how passionate I am about this. I've been writing about this topic for more than a year now because I'm from West Africa in the global south, so it's really, you know, very close to my heart. But basically, we know that by now that only about 15% of the clothes that we donate to op shops get sold. The rest of it is either, you know, unwanted, too dirty, or damaged, you know, like rags. And so all of that gets shipped off to sold, essentially, to countries in the global south. Global south means the poorer countries in Asia, Africa, and Latin America, in case anyone was wondering. And those clothes, again, are purchased by importers and sold in local markets, right? And that's really how I started my career in sustainable fashion as a teenager, when I was in Nigeria. And basically the quality of clothes have gotten so poor, and we are donating such poor quality clothing that it's sort of inhumane to the people that are buying them in those countries. So for example, I don't know, most people by now I think have seen the ABC documentary Dead White Man's Clothes, about what, you know, it followed the clothes that were shipped to Ghana and what happened in the city of Accra and things like that. So I wrote an article. It was a really good case study because about, I think, 15 to 30 million garments are shipped to Accra every week, right? And this is a country with 30 million people, I think. And we know that we're producing about 150 billion garments globally every year. So what's happening is that they're receiving these bales, and an importer will pay an average of $92 for a bale, with about 180 to 200 garments in it. And we saw in the documentary that out of that bale, only 7 items are saleable. 7 out of 180 to 200 items. And this person has paid $92 for it. So it's kind of like luck of the draw, what they receive. So basically they're essentially receiving our trash, right?
We're dumping our waste on them, our fabric.
Yeah. So basically, we're using the global south as our new landfill, is what we're doing. So we're damaging their environment with basically our textile and fashion waste, right? And the simple solution, and basically, it's literally filling up their landfills. It's polluting their oceans and beaches. There's like secondhand garments everywhere, and even on the streets. Like, it's just hideous and absolutely crazy. And the thing is that, you know, the simple solution would be, we say, okay, what everyone was saying when that documentary came out, because it was pretty viral. Okay, let's start sending only quality, you know, items or items in good condition to these countries. And I think absolutely sure we should do that, because it's really, you know, inhumane and disrespectful to send what we're sending at the moment. However, and this is, I think, the biggest point, is that we're not really addressing the elephant in the room, which is overconsumption. You know, because if we suddenly said, okay, we're only sending quality items, that's going to be probably 10 to 20% of what we're sending now. And we'll suddenly be confronted with a humongous mass of textile waste, fashion waste on our own shores. And what are we going to do about that? And I think that's something that should actually happen, so that we can face our addiction to shopping head on, you know, addiction to fast fashion head on.
And Nina, that goes back to what Kit said, which is buy less and buy quality. So you wear it, you fix it, you wear it over time, you swap it with friends. Ella, before we go to questions, there's some terrific questions coming in. I wanted to know, get 2 things from you. The first is, for I don't know if you have friends who aren't necessarily into thrifting and vintage. I want to get a sense of what you think people's biggest misconceptions are in terms of thrifting and buying vintage, and if you had a friend who was like, I want to dress like you, what would you do with them? Like, where would you take them? What tips would you give them?
Oh, well, yeah,
So
I definitely
double barrel question. So first is biggest misconception. Second, friend comes and says, I want to dress like you, what would you do with them?
Yeah, it's funny because I definitely do have friends and even some family in the rag trade that like are not thrifters. I have some cousins who are incredibly high-end, beautiful, sort of like, you know, young Instagram influencers basically, and it's all Zimmerman for them, baby. It's like wow. And to me, I admire good fashion and good design so much, but it's incredible to me. Would very much be a sometimes food, as Elmo says, is day food to them. I'm like, holy cow, how is that happening? Paying for this stuff. But yeah, so when they ask me about the thriftier side of things or the op shop side of things, there is a misconception that I think, well, dirty. Yeah. People might be dirty, or it's going to smell funny.
Have they not heard of a washing machine?
Because say that, yeah, some of it.
I get it. I understand. Like, yeah, it's dirty. It can be dirty. It could be smelly.
That's the thing. I mean, don't get me started. Some of my favorite items, this is too much information, are off the ground. I like my advice is always down, because I found some incredible earrings, like, you know, like real silver stuff, real anyway. Like I'm one step beyond op shops in that I just find shit on the street and in parks that I end up loving and incorporating into my anyway. But I think the misconception is, you know, it's not. I've never found anything that's actually gross, never ever. And I op shop, you know, weekly for my whole life. So yeah. I think that can be debunked. I've never found any. And if something is a bit icky, you give it a wash. But not only, I've found, if you are lucky enough to find items from the time before now, things were much more cared for. Things were more. Oh, yeah. You're going to get
so beautifully made, and in so many ways well made.
Will never rip. Like, and you know, haven't you ever found stuff in the pockets too? Like, you know, it like not like a mothball, but like beautiful lab shirts and stuff on an old white woolen jacket that I love. You know, in that jacket, I found a note, which was just mind blowing, because I mean, the anthropological kind of, you know, fact of that. Note in old-fashioned handwriting, and I found a lavender sachet in the other one, and it was a precious coat, and it'll never die. Like, things were just made to such a higher standard because people less often and with much more intention and with much I just think you're so right. The talk about getting to the root is that we just have to break the addiction to crap. You know, it's just like junk food. You know, the spotlight was on junk food a few years ago with Jamie Oliver and his school dinners and all that stuff. And now it's coming to gut. Really, it is so crook, and that was upsetting hearing about all that land, you know, that material waste. And I mean, I don't know a lot, no expert, but I know it's bad, and you
do know it's bad.
Rein it in. It is our individual responsibility. Yeah. Even love your habit, we can all break habits, you know.
All right, I might go to question time because we've only got 15 minutes. So I've got a question here, I think, for Kit, which I can go back up. Where is it? Question to Kit from out of all the things you do in the area of sustainability, what has resonated the most with your customer?
Oh, that's a good question.
A good question, isn't it?
It's a really good question. I think that I don't have the opportunity to speak to them most, you know, like on a regular basis. Mm-hmm. But I think in terms of the response from the customer, I would have to measure by what they're purchasing.
Yeah.
And what I'm loving is that the KitX customer loves the hemp that we're doing, the hemp material. They're loving the Gbor material that we're doing. And at Willow, my previous label, the linen and the hemp, well, we didn't do hemp, but linen, it didn't move like it is at KitX. So
wow, interesting.
They're responding to that. The other thing is we're doing and talking about waste and everything, and, you know, humans' insatiable desire to consume, which is what part of our DNA makeup almost. do we stop that? And I think it's by providing solutions, creators providing solutions that are desirable but are made from waste, for instance. So the other thing that are loving is future from waste denim. So we're taking
your denim is fabulous.
Yeah, taking the denim from landfill, throwing their denim away. It's going to just decompose and potentially, use energy to create a wadding, which is what apparel in Melbourne are doing. Instead of doing that, taking their denim, we're just picking it up and removing it from this apparel business, it's called, in Melbourne. And we are washing it and then opening it up and cutting our patterns with it and then creating new garments with expert machinists in a beautiful atelier. So that is really being received well, that every single garment is unique, every single panel within each garment is unique. And that's resonating really well with our customer, which is brilliant. And then the other thing that we've just launched is KitX, which is a marketplace for people to trade their KitX pieces that they may not be, wearing as much for whatever reason, and they do.
COVID banana bread, I'm sure, is the thing that is driving that exchange. Too much banana bread in COVID. Is it exploded?
Maybe. And sometimes you buy things that you think you're going to wear and love,
and then you just think, wouldn't it be lovely to see somebody else wear this?
And somebody else will love it. So that's the kind of loving longer, rehoming, extending the life, extending the love. So that's a really important initiative that has been really well. And so that's kind of the sum up of response.
Which is one of the other things I love about clothes swapping, and Nina was talking about, those clothes swapping workshops that there's nothing better than having a friend of yours, have liked something that you've worn and for them to wear it, and then for you to wear, you to get the opportunity to be able to wear their stuff and to swap. Great question from Julia Brown, and this is around fast fashion. I mean, there would be even people on this seminar and on this workshop, and look, pretty much everybody that probably has a couple of fast fashion items in their wardrobe. What do you do? Do you give them away if they fall apart really quickly? I might go to you, Nina. Like, what if somebody says, I've got a couple of fast fashion items, I don't want them anymore, they're not falling, they're falling apart. What's the ethical thing to do with them?
It varies on how badly they're falling apart, but because there's some things that you don't want but somebody else wants. And I have secondhand fast fashion items and I love them, however, as I think Kit mentioned, apparel in Melbourne, they're a place where you can recycle garments. However, if we all start sending everything to apparel, I don't know the capacity of that company. They'll be able to handle it if the whole of Australia starts doing that. So I think we definitely need to support or develop more organizations like apparel, that take damaged textiles and are able to upcycle it, just to keep the circular economy going. So I think definitely looking into environmental agencies, government environmental agencies that provide grants, that have initiatives that support these types of platforms. I think it's definitely the way for us to go collectively.
Yeah, there are actually quite a few questions as well about that. Another question here. Since I've been op shopping, I feel that some of the op shops are looking to reach a different market and trying to be alternatives to high-end retail rather than community spaces. Can you reflect, perhaps Ella and maybe Nina, on this idea of the gentrification of secondhand and vintage? Is it a good thing? So it's the things that we worry about. Obviously, Kit's got an exchange, which is almost like it's for her brand, but it's almost like it's a kind of a there's those kinds of things. And I noticed that there are actually quite a few fashion labels that will have you, send back their items in good quality. But what do you think? I mean, is this a good thing? Were there anything you should be worried about?
I think that, okay, so I get this question a heck of a lot. So I'm just gonna, yeah. So basically, the truth is that as industries move forward and time moves on, secondhand fashion is, in my opinion, kind of a subset of the fashion industry, kind of born out of the fashion industry, and it's relatively new still, right? And it's still developing. And any industry, whether it's finance industry, any industry at all, always evolves and becomes whatever it's going to be. And I think we're seeing this thing where secondhand sustainable fashion is evolving to kind of mimic retail. And whether that's a good thing or bad thing is relative, which is hence, you have the gentrification. However, it's just par for course. But if this is why I bring in clothes swaps for people, where they talk about now, op shopping is becoming really expensive. And I think clothes swaps are kind of like the ugly stepsister, where people are, it's not really taking off momentum the way it should. Yeah. But to me, clothes swaps are gold. For people who feel they can no longer buy quality clothing in op shops, I always recommend hosting clothes swaps. It doesn't have to be just with your friend group. In fact, don't do it with your friend group. Extend it to maybe the other part of town. Just entirely different groups in different suburbs, so that you get a mix of clothing. You don't just get the same stuff circling around, within the same group of people, right? I love what Ella said about the variety of, of being able to get things from different types of places. I found clothes on streets before, just hanging over a fence, and I took it home and it worked. I found this beautiful kimono in a tip, after a school fete. Yeah, and it's I love it. It's so beautiful. So you just never know. But sorry, I'm going off on a tangent. But I really think people need to host clothes swaps and also attend clothes swaps. And it could be niche clothes swaps. Earlier you talked about not being able to find your size and clothes for your body shape. If you host a clothes swap for, I don't know, for instance, women, for clothing sizes 14 and over, that caters to a market that conventional fashion doesn't typically cater to, right? If you host a clothes swap for maternity wear. Now, I've said this so many times that I have so many friends throughout my life. I have so many friends that when they get pregnant, they can't find maternity clothes to wear. And it's this big drama. And you would think it's the first time a woman has gotten pregnant in human history.
And has to clothe herself. Yes, exactly. Or go to parties, or get married, or do any of those other things that pregnant women can apparently do now.
Exactly. So imagine if we had like swaps for maternity wear, or even a clothes library where women can, as they get bigger and bigger, as a pregnancy goes on, they can go and sort of exchange clothing, right, for that 9-month period. And what happens, what I see a lot of women do is after they're finished having children, they just get rid of all those clothes, just dump it. Yeah. Right? And then the next woman that gets pregnant somewhere else starts this process again. Everybody's doing it individually, so it's incredibly wasteful. So I think clothes swaps are definitely the way to go. Niche clothes swaps.
Ella, you were kind of nodding. Did you have anything to add to that?
Oh yeah, I'm just loving. I'm drinking that all in because I found the same thing. I have witnessed the gentrification of many of my favorite op shops, and I am still from regional Victoria mostly too. So it's a little slower there. Thank God. Shepparton is a hot tip. Everybody, Shepparton. You want to drive and find some gold now that it's legal again. Take a drive. But a question mark rising for me, and now I just feel like I've got the solution: clothes swaps, which is something I guess I've been doing unofficially with friends for years.
Yeah.
I guess one of the people that I like to give my friends clothes that I am wearing too much in the media and think, oh God, that's the third time I've worn that on telly. I probably shouldn't wear that again, which I know Jan Fran is an amazing person in that regard.
Yeah, she does do some fantastic stuff. Yeah.
Amazing. None of which is new. It's just genius. But so I've been doing that unofficially for years, but now I'm super motivated to make it official. And like you said, not just within the friendship group, but try and find some different ways to, do those clothes swaps. I love the sound of a clothes library as well. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Why aren't we doing it?
I'd really encourage people when they've got a moment to have a look at, there's some fantastic tips and ideas and in the chat. There's Nina's website, there's KitX's website as well, KitX website as well. Before we finish, because we've only got 4 minutes, I want to get each of our speakers to reflect on what is your top tip for sustainable fashion that you haven't already mentioned. Kit, when you, other than to buy from your beautiful website. What would you say is the thing that somebody who really cares about sustainable fashion should be looking out for?
I mean, again, it comes back down to buy less, love longer, rehome, share, swap, make sure, extend the life of the garments. There's so much energy that goes into the product that, most people have no idea how much goes into it. It should actually be so much more expensive than it is if you actually understand the resources going into it. So to be able to love longer and buy less and love more and extend the life, stay away from virgin nylon and polyester. I do think that is a massive, that probably has the first foremost largest impact. Plastic buttons, even the care labels, looking at the care labels, if they're polyester, put pressure on your favorite brands, ask them questions, because it might open ways for them to change as well.
Absolutely.
And vote with your wallet,
Absolutely. And use social media to put pressure on them, because they monitor them, and don't just abuse the people in the shop. That's not the way to go. Nina, sorry, Kit, sorry.
No, I could go on and on. That's all good.
Kit, and then Ella's going to give us her biggest tip. We'll go to you, Nina. Anything you haven't already mentioned?
Yes, I think restyling is a powerful way to not buy new things, right? So restyling is basically using one garment in your wardrobe in 3, 5, 7, 10, as many ways as possible, for as many different occasions as possible, right? So for example, you take one dress that probably it's a casual dress, but just through layering and accessorizing, you can completely change the look, right? And take a casual dress for something that you can wear to a wedding, for example, or change the dress to something more grungy if that's your style. But an easy, simple way to do that is if you just have all your clothes on your bed or something in a pile, and then you start to see different combinations of how you can wear things that you never thought of before. Like you probably have a green skirt and you always only wear it with a white top, right? Yeah. But then when you throw it on your bed, you realize, oh my gosh, this looks amazing with the leopard print, shirt house that I have. And you just get all these ideas, and that keeps you from buying new clothes all the time. Saves you a heck of a lot of money, and it makes you realize that your wardrobe is blessing you with so much more than you initially gave it credit for. So I think restyling. Oh, by the way, you can get inspiration from Instagram on style, just search style challenges. It's a huge thing now. So
fantastic
ideas and inspiration from there.
My theory is that you can restyle pajama pants to do anything, to pick the children up, to go out to dinner.
Totally,
perhaps not to get married, perhaps not for the first date, but certainly for the third if it goes well. Ella, what?
I would have said no way, like before the pandemic, but after staying at home,
I'm making a joke. But yeah, no. I think that's right. Ella, your final top tip before we finish up.
Ones have literally said, and and I'm not a designer and I'm not an academic on this, but as a fan and as a lover, you've got to vote with your wallet. It was said, but supporting ethical designers, because as much as we can focus on shopping less, buying better, we're still going to shop. So that is the all important moment, to catch yourself in the moment and wait and support that ethical designer. So know who is kind of ethical and who's got the best practices, because that's all available on the internet. There are apps for it even that make it super easy to see who is an absolute no-no, and I won't name names, but I think we all know who I'm talking about.
Yeah, we do.
Like, don't do it if you can, because there'll literally be blood on your hands. And maybe a little deeper and drill down into who's fantastic and who's local. There's a brand that I'm so fond of called Collective Closets, and you get to know the people who are doing this. You get to hear the stories, and then you sort of become friends with these people. And yes, my pair of linen trousers from then might be 3 times what it is from the Evil Chain, but if you love fashion, you're getting such a more rich fashion experience by your wallet ethically.
And I've just put in my favorite ethical fashion website called Social Outfit. Check them out, and all of us on Instagram, all of our websites are in the chat, and I'm going to hand over to Andrew.
Thank you, Rebecca. Well, thank you very much for everyone for joining this session this afternoon. Hope you found it super informative. Thank you for your patience with those little technical difficulties. If there's one thing that COVID's taught us all, it's that we can adapt and be flexible and deal with stuff not quite going according to the plan, right? So really thank you for your patience with the technical difficulties. A massive thank you to the panelists for bringing your expertise, warmth, energy to this really super important subject. I am going to finish up with a little slide that has our panelists' Insta and some Twitter accounts, so you can follow them. And finally, if we'd invite you to do a survey, tell us what you thought of today, what you learned, how many of these you've done. There's only 5 or 6 questions, and be super kind about the technical difficulties, of course. But a big thank you to everyone for being involved. We greatly appreciate it. Next weekend, Garage Sale Trail. Garage sales start all over the country. Buy, sell, shop, but just do it secondhand. Thank you very much.
I'm having one coming by myself.
I'd love to get to Shepparton.
Yeah, come on, it's not too far.
Bye, everyone. Thanks.
Okie dokie, signing off. Thank you.
Bye.
See ya.